Aftershocks are smaller earthquakes that happen after a larger earthquake called the main shock. Imagine throwing a rock into a pond. The biggest splash is the main shock. The smaller ripples that come after are like aftershocks. Aftershocks happen because the ground is readjusting after the main earthquake. The Earth's crust is like a giant puzzle with pieces that fit together. When a big earthquake happens, it's like shaking up that puzzle. The pieces of the Earth's crust move around during the main shock. This movement can put stress on other parts of the crust. These stressed areas are then more likely to break and cause aftershocks. Aftershocks can happen for weeks, months, or even years after a big earthquake. They usually get smaller and less frequent over time. Imagine squeezing a stress ball. If you squeeze one part really hard, other parts of the ball might feel tighter too. This is similar to what happens in the Earth's crust during an earthquake. The main earthquake releases a lot of energy in one spot. This changes the stress on the surrounding rocks. Some areas experience an increase in stress, making them more likely to slip and cause aftershocks. Think of it like dominoes. When one domino falls, it can make others fall too. The main earthquake is like the first domino, and aftershocks are like the ones that fall afterward. The stress redistribution caused by the main shock can extend for miles around the fault. This is why aftershocks can occur in areas that weren't directly on the fault line that ruptured during the main earthquake. Earthquakes happen on faults, which are breaks in the Earth's crust. Think of a fault as a crack in a rock. When the stress on the crack gets too high, the rock breaks, and that's an earthquake. A big earthquake can trigger smaller earthquakes on nearby faults. This is called fault reactivation. The shaking from the main earthquake can be enough to push these faults over the edge and cause them to slip. Imagine you have a stack of books, and you pull one out from the middle. The books above it might shift and settle. Fault reactivation is similar. The main earthquake changes the balance of forces, causing other faults to move. Sometimes the triggered earthquakes can be larger than expected. This is why it's important to understand how earthquakes interact with each other. Section 4. Rebounding Earth, the poroelastic effect. The Earth's crust is not completely solid. It contains fluids in tiny spaces between rock grains. These fluids, mostly water, play a role in aftershocks. When an earthquake happens, the pressure on these fluids changes. This is called the poroelastic effect. Imagine squeezing a sponge. The water inside moves around. As the pressure changes, the fluids move through the rock. This movement can cause the surrounding rocks to expand or contract, triggering aftershocks. The poroelastic effect can continue for a long time after the main earthquake. This is because it takes time for the fluids to redistribute and for the pressure to return to normal. Section 5. Slow recovery, the viscoelastic response. The Earth's crust is not perfectly elastic like a rubber band. It also behaves a bit like a very thick fluid, slowly deforming over time. This is called viscoelasticity. After an earthquake, the Earth's crust slowly adjusts to the new stress conditions. This adjustment is not instantaneous. It happens over a period of time, like memory foam slowly returning to its original shape. This slow deformation can also trigger aftershocks. As the crust adjusts, it releases energy, causing more earthquakes. The viscoelastic response of the Earth is one of the reasons why aftershocks can continue for a long time after the main earthquake. Section 6. Fading tremors. Aftershocks over time. Aftershocks are a natural part of the earthquake process. They are the Earth's way of adjusting to the changes caused by a large earthquake. The good news is that aftershocks generally decrease in size and frequency over time. This is because the stress on the surrounding faults gradually decreases as the Earth's crust adjusts. While aftershocks can be unsettling, they are a sign that the Earth is healing itself. Have you ever felt an aftershock? Share your experience in the comments below.